Testing, sound check. Esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's 3 p.m., the 21st of February. Most of those who are supposed to attend this meeting are with us already, and we start. So, the strengthening of multi-level democracy, governance, and human rights for sustainable local resilience and recovery of Ukraine, with the backgrounds of what we face and experience, not only here in Ukraine, but worldwide, helps us to understand the life goes on, life will continue after this attack is over, and the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities is launching the project, the title of which I have already mentioned, and it's part of the EU Action Plan on Resilience, Recovery, and Reconstruction for the years 2023 all the way to 2026. Yet another confirmation that we'll have a lot of things to do in years to come, because we need to strengthen the resilience of the local self-government authorities on their way of successful transformation based on the key principles of local governance. And as part of this project, we'll support the dialogue, partnership, and consultation mechanism between different levels of governments, even though I understand that other participants will tell you more about this. But being a journalist myself, being a person who looks at what's happening in the country, and in my profession, I talk to people from different strata of our population. Let me tell you this much. Our local self-government proved that it is one of the foundations of the Ukrainian nation, thus the backbone of our victory. So this is the project launching event today. And we have invited the Ukrainian delegation to the Council of Europe, as well as other counterparts, with the goal of discussing the strategic partnership with our partners, all with the aim of strengthening local democracy. And it's my pleasure to give the floor for the welcoming speech to Mathieu Maury, Secretary General of the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities of the Council of Europe. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Dear Mayor Klitschko, dear Deputy Ministers, dear members of the Parliament, dear head of the Ukrainian delegation to the Congress, dear mayors, distinguished partners, ladies and gentlemen, and if you allow me, dear friends. It is my privilege to be with you today for the launch of the new project of the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities of the Council of Europe in Ukraine. I'm honored to be joined today by Mayor Klitschko, Chair of the Association of Ukrainian Cities, for the opening of this important event. We are also privileged to be with representatives of the different levels of government, which clearly speaks of your devotion and commitment to local democracy, as well as of your openness to discuss challenges and opportunities in a fruitful manner. Allow me to use a moment to express our high gratitude to the Association of Ukrainian Cities for the close cooperation with the Congress over so many years, and for their outstanding efforts and support provided to member communities during the dire circumstances of war. I would also like to express gratitude to all members of the Ukrainian delegation to the Congress for their active participation and engagement in the Congress work. I was elected Secretary General of the Congress in October 2022, and I took office in January this year. During my campaign, I emphasized that the Congress has an obligation to provide unwavering support to Ukrainian local and regional authorities in their struggle. And today, I stand ever so firmly behind this statement. I would like to assure you that this support will continue as the Congress stands with you, your country, and your people, as it has done from the outset of Russia's ruthless war against Ukraine. The Congress has continuously affirmed its unwavering commitment to the independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. The role of the Congress is to strengthen and foster genuine grassroots democracy, and this cannot be done without strong local authorities and communities. You have proven to the whole world that Ukrainian local authorities are a cornerstone of resistance, a stability factor at the heart of the country's resilience, a key for Ukraine's reconstruction and modernization. We will continue supporting you in this endeavor until the end of the war and beyond. In order to further strengthen local self-government in Ukraine, and in view of operationalizing the Congress political work, I have the privilege to launch today with you the project Strengthening Multi-Level Governance, Democracy and Human Rights at Local Level in Ukraine. The Council of Europe Action Plan for Ukraine, Resilience, Recovery and Reconstruction for 2023-2026 was developed in close consultation with a broad range of national and local authorities from Ukraine. Our project is prepared and implemented as part of this framework and is based on strong partnerships and a relationship of trust that we have built over many years. Our project addresses recommendations of a survey on needs and priorities of local authorities that was conducted in late 2022. The survey results confirmed that local authorities in Ukraine are indeed able to respond to multiple war-related crises with resilience, and they have governance tools in place to harness self-organization capacity of the Ukrainian citizens. They have also addressed the disastrous humanitarian consequences with a strong and cohesive approach across the country. We have gathered today to discuss the strategic orientation of our new project, explore synergies with other interventions, and further strengthen our cooperation for enhanced local democracy. Allow me to briefly introduce the project's three main components, namely dialogue building, open government, and human rights implementation at local level. Strengthening the dialogue, partnership and consultation between the different levels of government is a necessity for an effective coordination of the recovery, reconstruction and transformation of Ukraine. Setting up an effective framework for consultations can enable national and local authorities to further advance on the path of decentralization in post-war times and recovery. In this endeavor, we will continue accompanying the platform for national, local dialogue on open government and providing legislative assistance and expert support, both at central level and through national associations of local and regional authorities. We also aim to directly support the national associations of local and regional authorities as fully fledged partners in a well-coordinated multi-level governance system. We will continue supporting the Association of Ukrainian Cities in strengthening its advocacy role, in representing local authorities in discussing recovery plans, in further localizing national policies and commitments, as well as in ensuring effective consultations of local authorities on all matters of their concern, as provided by the European Charter of Local Self-Government. Regarding local democratic innovations and open government, we will work directly with local authorities willing to embark in strengthening their accountability and embedding a culture of participation and co-creation with civil society and citizens. The involvement and active engagement of local elected representatives with the contribution of women, as well as of local administrations, will be vital for the success of such local initiatives. In this view, we will notably promote deliberative democracy in order to foster renewed relationships between citizens, their local communities, and public authorities. To further promote this approach in Ukraine and to respond to the interest expressed already by several local authorities, we are organizing a peer exchange in the morning of the 2nd of March, where we will exchange on ways to implement deliberative processes in Ukraine for a sustainable and inclusive recovery. We would be pleased, of course, to have you with us on this occasion too. Finally, the project will promote the right to equality and non-discrimination at the local level. We will be working with local authorities and with the AUC on integrating a human rights-based approach for renewed local policies and strategies, focusing on social cohesion and on the inclusion of IDPs and other underrepresented groups in local policy making and cultural life. Ladies and gentlemen, the Congress launched its first project in Ukraine in 2014 to support the implementation of democratic reforms in line with the principles and standards of local and regional democracy. Ever since, we worked with local elected representatives as leaders for change, and with young local leaders, we supported national associations of local and regional authorities, and we contributed to local self-government reforms. Moreover, we have facilitated numerous peer exchanges, provided experts and financial support to many successful local initiatives, accompanied new processes to meet the ambitions of Ukraine, and support the country in its European commitments. We will continue to support all levels of governance in Ukraine on the path to the European Union integration. Under the horrendous circumstances caused by Russia's ruthless war against Ukraine, the mayors, local councillors, and civil servants prove every day to play a key role in protecting their residents and providing essential services. They are key for the revival of the country and need to be fully involved for a successful recovery, reconstruction, and transformation of Ukraine. I look forward to continue working with Ukrainian authorities at all levels and discussing with you ways to further strengthen our long-standing cooperation and fruitful relationship. I can reassure you of the Congress' commitment and determination to be on your side in protecting our shared democratic and European values and in building together stronger cities, towns, and regions. Thank you very much.
Дуже дякую, мсьє Морі, коли чуєш, що...
Thanks a lot, Monsieur Marie. Every time when you hear a person who has such a great understanding of what's happening here in Ukraine, you understand even better why our cooperation was so fruitful so far. And it's not surprising that he mentioned the Association of the Cities of Ukraine, and the person who heads it, the Kyiv city mayor, Mr. Vitaly Klitschko. So, Mr. Vitaly, back to you.
Dear friends, dear colleagues, I want to talk Ukrainian, and I hope the next time we speak English, but right now I continue my speech in Ukrainian. Перш за все,
First of all, please allow me to welcome you, Mr. Marie, with finally becoming the Secretary General of the Congress and coming into full capacity in this new position. I am convinced that in the fruitful cooperation with you and the political leadership of the Congress would be as strong as it used to be with Mr. Kiefer in previous years. Grasping this opportunity, I would like to express sheer gratitude to the Congress for the cooperation with the Association of Cities of Ukraine. And it's a pleasure for me that this cooperation already delivers some concrete results. Together, we have introduced a number of projects, and today we are ready to launch another project. Local authorities, mayors, and local elected officials remain to be the key supporters of all those changes that are currently happening in our communities. The main priorities of our cooperation are and will remain the strengthening of local self-government, preserving the achievements of decentralization reform, helping to avoid the establishments of local military administrations. Let me reiterate, if we build a democratic state, then the local self-governance remains to be the basis. The democracy is built bottom up, not top down. And our principal position here is to ensure that local self-governments keep working continuously. And then municipal authorities should not be faced with the practice of creating local military administrations. During the time of war, we are surprised that even under such atrocious, difficult conditions, they still are able to render all the vital necessities for people. And thus, we have seen on numerous occasions that when local authorities and communities at large can fastly react to external challenges. So the resilience of the country is based on the resilience of local authorities. Nobody can offer you a golden recipe how to ensure efficient local self-governance in the time of Russian military invasions. Thus, together with our international partners, together with the Congress, we need to find and introduce fast those solutions that would help local governments. And we need not only to survive, but only to move towards the victory. Thus, we expect that even during this time of war, and especially after the war, will be closely engaged with the Congress. Also, let me reiterate another area of our joint work, partnership relations between Ukrainian and European municipalities. This plays an extremely important role for reconstruction and recovery of our municipalities. And in this regard, the initiative of the Congress, City for City, which has been launched in springtime, could play an important role. But in order for our partnership relations become long-term, we need to actively involve our European municipalities and regions and our partners, basically. And summing up, the Association of Cities of Ukraine is constantly investing tremendous effort to free the captured mayors and other local leaders from Russian prisons, because now, in the time of war, the Russian occupiers have stolen 59 local leaders, of whom 35 mayors. We have lost one mayor who was murdered, the mayor of Hostomel. He was murdered by the invaders when he brought the help to the local residents. 5 mayors disappeared, and we don't know whether they were killed or are kept.
We are doing our best to find them and to set them free. Thank you to the conference for condemning the actions aimed against Ukrainian mayors on the part of Russia. And after your help in releasing all, in supporting us on all political platforms. And I would like to thank you, Mr. Marie, and invite you and the President of the Congress, Mr. Verbeck, to visit Kiev to work for further cooperation, because live communication is a lot better than talking online, remotely. That's why we will be happy to see you. Thank you for your cooperation. And we are sure that in the future, we will do our best to make Ukraine a truly European state. We're doing our best for this, and the local self-governance is the key pillar for that. Thank you all, and I'm wishing you a good day. Thank you, Mr. Klitschko, and I'm sure that everybody who's been listening to you, this is a clear statement, the clear statement of intent about also possible dangers awaiting us on our path. And of course, in-personal meetings are good, but even in course of such meetings as today, we can achieve a lot of things. And two speeches started a very energetic work at this event, and now we will be talking about sustainable local resilience and recovery of Ukraine, priorities for cooperation. And I would like to invite to give the floor to Olena Shulak, chair of the Committee on Organization of State Power, Local Self-Government, Regional Development and Urban Planning of the Parliament of Ukraine. Dear colleagues, taking into account that our agenda is very packed, I would like to ask you to limit your speeches to maximum 7 minutes. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you for this opportunity to participate at such an important event. Today, our attention is focused on the military forces of Ukraine that every day bring our victory closer. And on our part in the parliament, we are working daily to bring this victory closer. And one of the priorities that both the parliament and the executive authorities together with the local bodies are working is the process of recovery of Ukraine. We understand that this process is multidimensional and includes the rebuilding a lot of infrastructure ruined in the course of war. This includes social, transport infrastructure, industry, and this process not just equals rebuilding. And today our task is to modernize our country. To modernize our country means complex structural changes, both in economy and also in judiciary, and the change of relationship between the authorities and the citizens. This is the constructive participation of the civil society. And of course, there is no point in rebuilding the country as it was before. And today we have the huge desire to rebuild our country in accordance with the new principles, the new vision of a new modern European Ukraine. And that's why the sustainability and the capabilities of local self-governments are the priorities for us. Firstly, we think that the local self-governments should play the major role in how our communities and territories will develop. Our local self-government bodies should have the clear vision of the future, what infrastructural solutions, what policies will allow for the development of our communities to be quicker and more effective. Secondly, it is the local self-governments that should ensure the inclusivity of the rebuilding process, and it being aimed at interests of all the citizens of Ukraine. Thirdly, we should build the system of local self-governance itself to build the relations between the local and central authorities based on good governance principles, taking into account also the European principles. Here, I'm reiterating such a common phrase that Ukraine is made up of communities, and the development of every community is the prerequisite of the development of the whole of the country. And we are extremely grateful to the Council of Europe for making this project possible, for it starting right now in these difficult times, because this is the sign that our partners are with us, they're standing with us, that our partners believe in Ukraine, they believe in our victory, in our ability to carry out reforms and to change for the better. And it is important for us because the recovery process will go in sync with the European integration of Ukraine. And therefore, the project the strengthening governance, democracy, and human rights will be the component for the Ukraine's accession to the EU. And of course, the success of the project will depend on how engaged all the stakeholders will be, and its success will be directly connected to the legislative initiatives. Currently, legislation is something that is required both by central and local authorities. And I would like to shortly overview the legal initiatives that now are aimed at local self-governments and are planned for our committee in case of the positive conclusion by the Parliament for the current year. Among those initiatives, we have those that are registered already and those that need registration. All these legal initiatives would be divided into several spheres. The first is the state service within the local self-government bodies. We are planning to carry out the reform of the remuneration for work of public servants and to make the state a competitive employer, and we have respective draft laws, and we also plan to improve the competition procedures for B and V categories for public servants. And also there is the draft law on local self-government bodies that will also introduce the mechanisms of career advancement and the status of the elected officials, and also will implement the new modern tools for human resources management. And we also plan to improve the management to first of all, have the comprehensive legal basis for the functioning of local self-governing bodies and military administrations, and to ensure social guarantees for the members of the local self-government bodies. And the second area where we will concentrate our efforts concerns the question of development of the communities and also the democracy on a local level. First is here the communal property that also the relations that deal with this property that belongs to the territorial communities, and also the powers of the territorial communities on concerning this property. Everything must be clear, legal, in accordance with the Constitution and the laws of Ukraine. We will also concentrate our work on the question of democracy, of the participation of citizens in the development of the communities. We also suggest the draft laws that concern the bodies of self-organization of citizens, and also on the local level. And I hope that in 2023, we will register this draft law. Ms. Olena, we're reminding you of the time. And the third area is the relationship between the local self-government and the executive authorities. And it is important for us to adopt the law that concerns the structuring of the powers of the administrations for them to perform three functions: to coordinate the local territorial divisions of the executive authorities, to ensure the lawfulness of the decisions, and also to perform the functions of the executive authorities of oblast and regional councils. Of course, we are open to the dialogue and other proposals on the part of local self-governing bodies. And sustainability and stability and democracy and engaging the broadest possible citizenship is our priorities. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Elena, and for your focus, for the work of your committee on the local self-government. And we underline that we have also other MPs ready to participate. I'm ready to give them approximately 2 minutes if they would like to contribute to Ms. Sholak's speech. So please raise your hands if you'd like to. But as we see that Ms. Sholak's speech covered this approach of the whole of committee, so when we come to the question and answer sessions, then maybe the MPs will take the floor. So now I would like to invite Ms. Alexandra Azarkina, Deputy Minister of the Communities, Territories and Infrastructure Development of Ukraine.
It's a great honor to talk here at the premises of the European Council, one of the strongest supporter of the decentralization reform in Ukraine. Just very shortly, I would like to give you some updates regarding the ongoing processes in Ukrainian government regarding the decentralization reform and regional policy. You probably already know that our ministry was just recently appeared as a result of the merge of the two big ministries. And now I'm responsible for the strategic planning, regional development, and decentralization. It's a huge job, and it's impossible to fulfill it with the support of the technical assistance projects and experts, which we currently have from the key partners who are supporting the reform here in Ukraine. But it's more important to underline that the Ministry of Restoration, it's not only about the infrastructure projects or the construction itself, it's also restoration of the institutions. And that's why in our policies, we're trying to be not only data-based, but also based on the analysis of the people needs. Olena Sholak mentioned that Ukraine is Hromadas. Ukraine, it's peoples as well. And that's why we're very human-centric. And frankly speaking, all our analysis, all our plans, now they're based on the very direct calculations, how many people will receive such or that services if we'll make this or this investment, how many people we can bring from abroad because of the new security guarantees or restoration of their houses, how really we can make the process inclusive and to be sure that the people and their minds and their opinion are presented in the restoration, which is again, way more than just a construction or even building back better principle. So that's why in our deeds and together with the Parliament Committee, together with our partners and colleagues in the city and the central government, we are trying to implement all those principles. And first of all, I would like to focus you on three things. First of all, continue the reform of the decentralization. We need to fulfill the all necessary legislation. It's not easy. We understand that's a political process, and it's even more difficult when the political process is taking place in a fighting country, which is trying to be strength and in the same time democratic. So it's a challenge, but I think our society is strong enough to overpass any kind of the conflicts and really build a consensus around that. Plus, it's important to understand that any of the decision taken on local, regional, or central government should it pass the real understanding what is happening on the ground. That's why we're now investing our time in processes to gather the data about the existing conditions, about the services, again, which is provided for the citizens, and on the digital tools. Ukraine is quite strong on digital tools. You know probably the DIA application, which allows us to have all the procedures in our smartphones. But that's just the first step. Our common goal, together with the Minister of Digital Transformation, is to make sure that the hromadas, the communities, will have the same access to those services to make their work even more accountable and more transparent, because those two words need to be together with the process of the decentralization. Corruption risks, unfortunately, they exist everywhere. And the most important for us that we are lucky that infrastructure of the anti-corruption was built in Ukraine during the last 8 years. In the same time, we understand that it means nothing if it don't go to the all levels of the decision-making process. That's why we are not only relying on the digital tools, but we're also asking the help of our partners to establish strong institutions for the prevention of corruption and creating the accountability on the local level as well. Myself and Deputy Minister of the Restoration, we came from the sphere of the people who were consultants or experts to the cities, to the different ministries. Alexandra even used to work in the Kyiv administration as well. Our job was the outsiders, commenting, being experts, really helping the cities, the government to build reforms. At some point, he did it first. He jumped to be, the parliament representative, then the Minister of Infrastructure, and myself, I became not just an expert, but a part of the government. It's a huge responsibility. But knowing how much importance those reform support teams can have, we really would like to build a proper capacity on a level of hromadas. What do we mean? That's reform support teams on a local level. Now we're negotiating with all key partners, asking them to support the country movement to the reforms, really not only at the regional level, but at the level of the communities. We understand this plan is way ambitious, but there are a lot of activities already going on. And the thing we need is just to coordinate different donors and make it possible that one space will be available for experts who are working in those regions to support hromadas, both in the planning and strategic and project management, both in an urban planning reform, which Olena Shulak was mentioning, which is very important to properly plan reconstruction, but to make it visible and working on the local level. On the accountability and anti-corruption, work with the investments, which includes not only the business investment, but also the state investments or investments from the EU. We know the experience of the European Union when hromadas communities, they learn how to be compatible, how really fight for the investments, how really invest in themselves to be even more and more successful. So that's the path which we are choosing as well. And just really very grateful to all your support, and we are ready to continue the dialogue and build prosperous future for all Ukrainians. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава, дякую, пані Олександро, за цю
Thank you, Ms. Alexandra, for this clear, structured speech that defines priorities. Our next speaker that will have the floor, this is Marina Popotenko, Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports of Ukraine. Ms. Marina. Welcome, dear participants. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to join this extremely important discussion on the recovery of Ukraine. And this is also recovery of every person in Ukraine. And I would like first to regrettably inform you about the statistics that will push us to some conclusions that are necessary today. And starting since the beginning of the military aggression, we lost 40% of young people. And now over 2 million young people left Ukraine, and over 2 million young people became IDPs, and they were forced to leave their homes and to look safer places to live. Before the war, over 300 youth centers worked in Ukraine, and it was a very actively developing area that provided for a harmonious development of youth and its maximum integration into the community. And of course, it increased their capacities in the labor markets and their integration in the social life in Ukraine. And currently we have 143 youth centers that reopened, and 13 out of them were destroyed completely, 31 were damaged, and over 57 are on occupied territories, and we don't have clear information about that.
Але маємо і втішні
But
результати.
we have some favorable results and some good statistics. Namely, young people, both in Ukraine and elsewhere, according to the latest survey that we conducted, and we will definitely share the results with you. So more than 60% of young people strive to get involved into recovery efforts and rebuilding efforts. And that should be our focus as well in our youth policy. There are actually two focuses here. Firstly, to maximum extent possible, engage young people, especially creating conditions for them to come back to Ukraine, and thus, secondly, getting involved in the recovery effort. So when we speak about the first focus of attention, we need to combine the efforts to create such favorable conditions for the young people to be involved in the decision-making for the country. As the previous keynote speakers mentioned, we are striving to transform our behavior, our approaches, both at national and local level. So the young people are looking forward to changes in laws and regulations, but mostly to be involved in decision-making at the local level, to be actively and instrumentally involved in then implementing the plans that they jointly passed. So the space where this could happen are youth councils, public councils, and other individual and collective participation tools. And thus will bring life to the communities, and young people will feel themselves to be part of the strategic decision-making process. It's important to develop youth infrastructure, and let me try a couple of positive examples here. Some of the young people who were actively working in the east of Ukraine, but now became IDPs and moved to the Carpathian region, well, they created the new institutions that focus on integration of IDPs in the social life, focusing on rendering needed services to the communities. And an example of this is Co-Action Initiative, which we launched on the 8th day of the invasion, which reflected on the youth policy goals. And thanks to this initiative, the young people can receive services on career growth, on further training, on being exposed to various public events. And through this non-formal training, we combine adults and children and help the youth to get the knowledge that they failed to get because of this war. And in this regard, it's important to support the civil society and creating the potential for the involvement of the local residents through the civil society competitions, through the joint decision-making initiatives. So all this would be extremely important. And for this, we establish the Ukrainian Youth Fund, which would be strengthening the competencies of young people, supporting volunteers, and supporting young entrepreneurs, which we hope will help to strengthen local resilience, especially economically speaking. Like I mentioned, volunteers become an important second front in our country, and it proved to be not only resilient but powerful. And that's where a young person could, for the first time in his or her life, become part of the civil society, become the instrumental player in our joint life. And this is something that we need to start from school years. And together with the Ministry of Education, we are thinking about launching the volunteer classes and or volunteer lessons in our schools so that the pupils will learn that volunteer's job makes you part of your local community through practical deeds. And so these are the areas that I wanted to draw your attention to. And here we have quite a powerful legislation and regulations in place that could be used by the communities. Also, it's important not only to integrate the IDPs into new, for them, communities, but also to help our whole society to integrate into the European family. And in this regard, we have already introduced a number of great tools like the youth exchange programs and a number of other youth programs, Erasmus Plus in particular, popularization and incentives. So by doing this, we'll help the young people to understand that we are part and parcel of the European family, and thus we are fighting for our joint values. So that's what we're fighting for, sparing, not trying to save our lives on the front lines. Thank you, Ms. Marina, and you actually stuck to 7 minutes deadline. So thank you for being so accurate with your time management. Now, our next speaker is Ivan Verveika, Deputy Manager of Chief of Staff of the Human Rights Ombudsman. So we talked about human rights already. So Ivan, the floor is yours. Esteemed colleagues, hello. I hope you can hear me. Yes, of course, we can hear you. Thank you. Well, probably I need to present the plan of decentralization that our Ombudsman Office Secretariat have prepared. And the first step would be decentralization of the Secretariat of the Ombudsman's Office. Ombudsman's Office is protecting human rights globally. All the fundamental rights and freedoms from cradle to grave, with a focus, of course, on the prevention, on the support of the inmates of the penitentiary institutions, and working together with local self-governments. So what I mean by decentralization of our secretariat of the Ombudsman's Office, since we have an understanding that when a person addresses his or her case with the Ombudsman's Office, that's the final efforts of the person. Basically, by that time, a person lost even hope that anyone could help that person. So decentralization is all about creating in each region the regional office or the Human Rights Ombudsman's Office. So that's the first stage, and hopefully we'll finish it by July the 1st. So when I say establishing regional offices, basically we call them mini secretariats. So in each region, there will be a representative of the Ombudsman's office who is not a public servant, but has some limited set of authorities of the Ombudsman himself. That is to say, such regional representative would be able to use the Ombudsman's office mandate in this particular region. But in order to work accurately and conduct monitoring of shelters and prisons, they would need help. And thanks to our international partners, that's what's happening already. And in potential, we'll have 2 staff experts that would be visiting prisons, as well as the second expert would be advising on how to create shelters. And additionally, we hope that such regional representative offices would involve narrow subject matter experts responding to some requests or applications filed by the local residents, including the requests to deal something with the lack of access to public information. So far, in our secretariat, we believe that this lack of access to public information becomes the priority. Even during the martial law, people have the right to get access to public information, as outlined in the law on the access to public information. Also, we recognize that with time, each region should have an expert, a public servant, or somebody who understands what to do with prisoners of war, lost in action, people who were forcefully taken to Russia, including children. So we should have an expert who understands how the coordination headquarters should work and National Coordination Bureau. So this is what we're gonna have in each region. We already have a couple of successful cases under our belt, and let me add to this that we have what we call kid space in each region. It's not just a room for a kid to stay in. It's the office where in one in one side there is the corner where kids could stay with toys for younger kids, internet connection for teenagers. It will have soft furniture and transparent partitions. So if parents bring a child to our regional office or to the headquarters, then they can leave their kids safely in this kids room and carry out a meeting behind the glass partitioning so that the child would be visible but could not hear what's being said by the adults. Also, we will be able to record kids' evidence about any crimes perpetrated against the commissioners. So these are the cases where kids that suffered psychologically or physically, they should not suffer twice when describing those crimes committed against the child, but it will be done just in one time and recorded there. So this is something that will be done by July the 1st, 2023. The next step would be to create in each large city a representative office. So decentralization of the secretariat staffed with public officials, but with those representatives, we'll have additional about 500 to 600 people present locally. So with this network in place, we'll be present at the local level, and a person could file personally the application about whatever rights being violated. So and also it will help us to review all those tons of applications that are coming in, because with so many new hands available, will be able to provide quality advice and consultation for such people. Also, we believe that that would be something that would make Ombudsman's office more visible. We will explain why it's important for us to keep protecting the rights of people and why the local self-government should be involved with fighting for protecting the rights of people, not hiding from people, because we, being public servants, need to serve the people of Ukraine. That's it. Thank you, Ivan. That was brief and to the point and gives us a good picture of what's happening, especially in case of this decentralization of the Ombudsman's office. And now the floor goes to Ms. Lilia Pashinina, who is the head of the Ukrainian delegation to the Congress and the Council of Europe. Hello, colleagues. Thank you for inviting me to this very important event dedicated to launching the new project of the Congress, and which would help us to deal with the current challenges at the multi-level. In 9 years of presence in Ukraine, the Congress managed to carry out a number of successful projects that help both national and local and regional authorities to efficiently implement the decentralization reform and will improve the status of democracy in Ukraine. The delegation of Ukraine in the Congress had the privilege to be involved in the discussion of the new Council of Europe Action Plan for the years 2023-26, and advocate to include this particular project into the action plan, because we all recognize its importance. In 2 days' time, we will be celebrating 1 year since Russia launched a full-fledged invasion of Ukraine. 1 year after, we, through tremendous numbers of victims, but also resilience of the Ukrainian military, the president, and the whole Ukrainian people, we managed to withstand, resist, and survive. And for this to happen, the colossal role was played by local self-government authorities, who have changed their work from day one of the invasion, and thus they were able to resolve daily problems, providing people with needed services, even under such dire circumstances. Even in the worst moments, the many representatives of the local self-government offices refused to be evacuated and stayed and worked so that they will ensure that their communities are viable and working, because it's the local self-government bodies that become the first place of contact where people would address their challenges with. Thus, Ukraine became one of the few, or even the only country worldwide that managed to fully ensure the educational process in the time of war. This all became possible thanks to the efficient synergy between all of the levels of the governance. So almost 1 year after the invasion, we can state with conviction that the local self-government authorities performed well and contributed a lot in countering the Russian aggression. And it became possible with the help of the fact that the decentralization reform was launched a couple of years ago, which helped to improve the resilience of Ukraine because the local self-government bodies received more authorities and resources, and thus they were able to tackle new challenges much better and pass decisions faster, which is important during time of war.
Позитивний вплив реформи децентралізації на систему місцевого самоврядування України. Ми вкотре
Taking
наголошуємо
into account the positive influence of the reform, we insist on its continuation, and we have a lot ahead of us, both physically, as in the rebuilding the infrastructure, and also in other areas. And we are grateful to the Council of Europe, to all the stakeholders for support and for specific steps in supporting democracy, human rights, and the rule of law for all this time, and specifically with the beginning of the full-scale aggression. And we are hoping for deepening our cooperation, for the leadership role of the Congress, and for the sake of a sustainable rebuilding of Ukraine after our common victory. Thank you. Thank you, Lilia. You were very clear as for our plans for the future and as to how we can do it in a more assured way. And after Mr. Alexander Slobozhan's speech, Executive Director of the Association of Ukrainian Cities, I hope that we will have several minutes so that our mayors, I see Mr. Vasil Sidor from Slovota, and others, please raise your hands to give you the floor in a quick and effective manner. You will have up to 3 minutes. And now the floor is given to Mr. Alexander Slobozhan. Up to 7 minutes. The floor is yours. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I will be very quick to give the opportunity to our mayors, to the heads of councils to talk to us. First of all, I would like to thank to the Congress, to all the team for continuing our cooperation, and I would like to emphasize that this cooperation, its effectiveness, also shows itself not only because of its sustainability, but also because of the outcomes. I would like to emphasize the open government, because it's for the first time the Ukrainian municipalities were engaged into a large-scale international competition. There was an exception made for Ukraine, and I would like to again reiterate that the victory of our cities, Ternopil, Khmelnytsk, Vinnytsia, it is important that when we started our common work with the Congress in this area, it seemed impossible, but the victory is the result of the strivings of Ukrainian municipalities to better governance, because now they're exchanging their best practices. Secondly, our cooperation with the government. When we talked about the engaging into the platform, about now we're talking institutional cooperation, and it is thanks to the Congress, thanks to the team, to the Office of the Council of Europe, and to the joint project. Therefore, we hope that this area of cooperation will be expanded, because now we are working on the action plan for open government and all of that for the local level. I would like to remind you that as a result of our cooperation in October last year, over 100 communities participated in the competition, and it is a great experience for us. I would like to draw your attention that over 300 communities went through trainings, and we hope that in the new project we will see this cooperation continuing. And the synergy concerns not only the Ukrainian municipalities, because it's not only them will learn to to be stronger, to cooperate regionally and with the central authorities, but also the European municipalities gain a new experience. And I would like to make this expressive remark. Once we announced the competition of stories of people being unbreakable and 122 best practices by municipalities were sent to us under wartime conditions. And for that, the volunteers and NGOs were engaged. Kirovograd Oblast, where the children directly participated in it, where the businesses were engaged, and everybody joined together, united to protect their homes. And when we were talking about decentralization today, that strengthens the governance, we need to talk about improving the capabilities of the municipalities, and this would be the effective area of cooperation, the expertise that is extremely important for us, for Ukraine, for Ukrainian municipalities, the expertise of the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities. The focus is on the legislation that is being developed, and this expertise is being used by us, not only as regional and local authorities, but also as members of parliaments. And we stay connected with a lot of representatives from the parliament that directly advocate for these legislative initiatives, and that's why the expertise as that concerns the also the alignment with the European standards, with what is important and what we've done during the war. The draft law 8269, and we have now practices that have no analogs in the world, because the Ukrainian municipalities face the biggest challenge ever, the war, and the fact that they work in synergy, in cooperation, on a on multiple levels. I would like to thank the parliament, to the government, to the Congress for the support, and stress again that intermunicipal cooperation is important, because during the first minutes of the invasion, the European municipalities contacted Ukrainian municipalities and helped them, and they still continue to help. Mr. Klitschko mentioned the platform City for City, the platform that is supported and advocated by the Congress. This is the assistance that saved lives, and the Congress played an extremely important role in also freeing Ukrainian mayors. This is not only about saving lives of these government officials, but also saving lives of the people of those communities, this moral support, this and this also shows that we're ready for cooperation. And I think now is the time to give the floor to the mayors. And for now, I see that there are no other volunteers. The head of the Dragobich community, but please raise your hand using the reactions function. Don't worry. So, Mr. Vasil Sidor, city mayor of Slavota. It is the democratic community that we are fascinated by, so that they protect this common values. And because we had to do our job, we also organized our work to protect our country. But all those places, such as Hola Pristin and others, they were occupied from the very beginning. And as Mr. Klitschko said, it is our request, please help save our mayors from captivity. They remained human. They stayed with their citizens because one of them, Alexander Babic, was arrested in his office, and until now we don't know where he is, what the conditions of his captivity are. So we're asking the international community to save our mayors from captivity, because they weren't armed and they were arrested. And we are responsible for what is happening in our communities, despite all the challenges that we face. And I'm responding on behalf of a lot of mayors. We understand our responsibilities. What's happening in the world now? A lot of media and use bots, and there is this Russian aggression. They're trying to discredit our authorities. And I'm not talking about criticism, but groundless discreditation, groundless accusations, this mudslinging campaign when nobody does anything about it. I think it's wrong. And here I'm not talking about constructive criticism. So please think how we can protect ourselves. And since that's thirdly, this is the final point of my intervention. There are a lot of draft laws, and I would like to take into account that there is a proposal by the mayors. We're not campaigning for our own interests. We are campaigning for the interests of our cities. Thank you. Thank you for being so sincere, for sharing your concerns. And we're giving the floor to the representative of Trigov. I don't really have anything more to add. It's the first and the second, and I support my colleague, the speaker before me. And I would like to address Ms. Alena Shulak and say that, yes, the words, we have supportive words for local self-government authorities as representatives of local communities. But I would like to receive the answer as to what a region, I'm not talking about oblast, but regional military administrations, what are their functions and why the state funds are spent on them actually performing the functions of the administrations that already are doing their job, and they have their departments and work directly with municipalities on site. And secondly, how, because they have all the levers of influence, and there is no, and I've emphasized, no, as I can speak for the heads that I talk to, and I talk to them a lot. None of the heads of the amalgamated territorial communities have no cooperation with these regional military administrations. And I think it's not decentralization, but the opposite, decentralization of power, because the appointed individuals, they do not perform any responsible functions, and they in fact detract the local authorities from doing performing the responsibilities. It is the decentralization that saved Ukraine. And I was convinced in it when I was back in Brussels, when I talked to mayors, because we, together with the military, with the armed forces of Ukraine, and in fact, in our with our foreign partners, with our partner cities that helped us since the very first day please, I would like to receive the answer. What are the functions and when their functions and when there will be the order? Oblast administrations are wonderful. They are performing their functions very well. And what are your partner cities? Could you please tell us? Poland, Bytom, Legnica, Przemysl, Sanok, France, Lejeune, Germany, Greifswald, Greece, Kettering, South Korea, Hamgyong, the US, Canada. I won't be able to name all of them. We have 20 partner cities. The first is Bytom, that on the 26th of February provided assistance for us to evacuate the wounded. So the international cooperation was fantastic. And in this time, we sent 60,000 tons of humanitarian aid went through our humanitarian hub in Drogobych. When you're saying, believe me, yes, I think that the person who gives so many details and is so worried, yes, we will definitely believe you. So as to the answer about the regional administrations will be, but maybe not just right now, because the people who are completely competent to give the answer to this question are absent today, unless somebody would like to give an answer. But we have other mayors, so please, we're asking other participants, because Mr. Sider and Kuchman gave us the overview of issues, because when you talk about issues, then the chances of its resolution grow. Ms. Olena Sidorenko, please. Orzhitska Territorial Community, Poltava Oblast. I support my colleagues, my mayors, as for the participation, as for the understanding between the executive authorities and local authorities. And I would like to say that any government can work effectively only when it enjoys the trust of its citizens. But no one has more trust than the mayors. And I don't think that's only in Ukraine. I think it's because we are elected officials and we won't be allowed to be to say something that is not true. And when the mayor of Chernihiv was stripped of his powers, and when the council also loses its powers, then it's the threat of to democracy. Because it is a step forward, because we're talking about these issues. We have the opportunity to talk about these issues, and the chances are high that we will be heard. And we understand that open democracy, it's open not only to complete criticism, but it's also the opportunity to make decisions, taking into account the citizens, the different orientations, the gender policies, and we are representatives of the people of Ukraine. And transparency here and the low level of ethics would work against the local communities and the government in general. So there must be openness, there must be trust and cooperation in overcoming political challenges. And it is only the common work, the cooperation among executive authorities, administration, and local authorities that contributes to the victory on the front. So that's why I wish victory, tolerance, and openness to all of us. And we would like to implement more of it in our municipalities. Thank you, Ms. Olena. This is the paradox of how far-reaching it is. The person is wants the victory, and that is connected to the destruction of the enemy, but speaks about tolerance. Then it means that this person sees in all the issues and challenges in their complexities. So we listened to the person from Poltava, from Khmelnytsk, and from Drogobych, and maybe the representatives from other oblasts of Ukraine would like to give the floor, because now you have the practically one of the last opportunities at this point to clarify your vision, maybe to react to what was voiced here, and maybe the representatives of the ministries and the executive director of the Association of the Ukrainian Cities, who gave a very inspiring speech. So I don't see any volunteers for now, but I think the executive director will come to you himself. So these working relationships are very important.
Не хоче ще висловитися.
So, colleagues, unless somebody wants to take the floor, and by the way, you can write your wishes in our chat. And the chat, by the way, has the link on the brochure about the project. Please upload it. And now the floor goes to summing up and to identify the future steps for the project. Marita Moraz, who is the head of the Department of Cooperation and External Relations of the Secretariat of the Congress of Regional Local Authorities of the Council of Europe.
Thank you very much, Andrzej, for giving me the floor. And well, my big thanks to all speakers today. My warmest regards from Strasbourg. We feel so close to you, and so close to you also after such inspiring messages, inspiring vision you have for the future of your country. And I think this fits very much the plans we have with this project, which is in a continuous vein than what we have done so far. It is a project where we both work with authorities at central level, and I was very pleased to hear deputy ministers, to hear the ombudsperson also show what is their ambition for local government and for more decentralization and more support to local authorities. But it is a project where we also work with the national associations, and particularly AUC, and we have heard the chair and Alexander Slobozhan, our main partners, with whom we have designed this project. We have also heard some local authorities who are putting forward some of the challenges, but we're also putting forward the vision of local authorities and their willingness to act in a very transparent and inclusive mode, to use the best standards for local self-government, and encompass in their decision making also new democratic participatory processes. And this is very important, I think, all the more now that you have in your local authorities a number of residents that are new, that have suffered so much from the past year. It is now 1 year, and for us it is very difficult to understand how much suffering there is, but we are with you, and we have been with you all throughout the year, and we will continue. However, we also give to this project this more human rights tone, that to really take care of the new realities in the country. We spoke about reconstruction, rebuilding, but we spoke also about transformation. And I think that some of you have put forward the important role of local authorities in transforming the country, in building strong communities that can support the resilience overall of the country. So next steps will be for us a number of events dedicated mainly to local authorities. We are going to work on deliberative democracy, which is one of the most advanced ways to involve citizens in decision making, and we look forward to the positive reactions from Ukrainian local authorities. We know, Alexander said it, in 2018, when we started discussing working on open government, we were not sure that there would be the understanding, but there was more than the understanding. There was a proactiveness of local authorities, and I'm sure that this will continue also with new ways of involving local residents in your future policies. So we will start with that. We will also launch in some weeks a call to directly support local authorities with expert support, but also with funding. Some of the local authorities present had been part of previous granting schemes of the Council of Europe Congress, but this one will be all the more important. We will continue working with the AUC in supporting its contribution to the reforms in the country, to the legislative process that was mentioned by the chair of the committee. Very important processes ahead. And we will continue with our members of the group of independent experts to work with the AUC and directly also with the parliament and with the ministry. We look very much also to starting a new collaboration with the new ministry. I think that also we should mention the support to the association in continuing helping local authorities to enhance their partnerships at international level. I was very much pleased that the 20 twinnings were mentioned for one single local authority. And twinnings were in the past seen as old-fashioned, but we can see that you can build on twinnings many things, and it's about a relation of trust. Trust building, one of you spoke of the big trust that local authorities enjoy. It's true, it's not only in Ukraine, it's overall in our democratic countries. I think that this trust, I mean, you elected representatives, your peers, local councillors, and also the officials of the city have this very much in mind, that the closer you are to citizens, the more trust they have in the public authorities. And you, as local authorities, this is important for trust building, not only at local level, but overall in the overall governing system of a country. So I am very much looking forward to working with all of you. Very much looking forward to any views, any ideas that you may have. We are embarking for the moment in a 2-year project. Our action plan is for 4 years, and I trust that as we have been working in your country with you since 2014, we can also say that this will continue, and we will continue strengthening this relationship and supporting you. You have heard the commitment from Mathieu Maury, our new Secretary General. The Congress will be on your side, and I really congratulate you for being so proactive, being so having this vision about the role that you must have, and leading this resilience in your country. So I wish you all a very good end of the day, and I really look forward to meeting you, hopefully in person at some point, but for sure online in the upcoming weeks. Thank you again. Thank you to all of you. and Slava Ukraine.
Слава Україні, glory to Ukraine. Кількома
Glory
мовами
to Ukraine. You cannot say it in all the languages, but the essence is the glory to Ukraine, as said by its citizens. And among those people, the leaders of the local communities are, and we have seen the evidence to that. That was the pain of today, because we don't know where those people are. But there is hope. There is hope for the future, and there is the belief that since the Ukrainian local self-governance collected so much experience, and with the support of our international partners, we will be able to produce the experience that will be useful to other countries. But God forbid they will have to use this experience in practice. But we will contribute to this process, and the trust plays the important role. We see the new terms arising, such as deliberative democracy, and there are novel terms, but the question is to understand the essence, because there is the skills, there is resilience, there is the goodwill, and there is that fascinating phenomenon that, as we were taught in physics, that the force of action equals the force of counteraction, but we see in Ukraine that counteracting is a lot stronger. So thank you to all of you for being this force. And it is in cooperation with our international partners, you're making sure that there is life, the life after victory, that will take a lot of effort. But if you don't talk about it, then it won't happen like that. So finally, please, in the chat, you can find the description, the project leaflet, and we would like to thank our interpreters that it's also important for understanding. So I'm wishing all of you success, and I have no doubt, glory to Ukraine, and glory to those who creates that glory.
Bye-bye. Thank you.